Hey everyone, weather anchor Peter Warner here. After what was a pretty quiet week following an active weekend, we've got more active weather heading our way. That's why we have this new weather impacts alert in place. And there's some pros and cons to it. We're going to break down kind of why this system has shifted a little bit here in the forecast and also show you a look at what models are showing in terms of rainfall totals and snowfall totals as we get towards those higher elevations as well. We'll also break down that drought. I know everyone's curious about that drought. We do get those new outlooks here at the end of the week, so we'll dig into those details here as well. But yeah, the weather impacts alert is going to be the big storyline here of the forecast through Wednesday. Next week, we're going to be talking about some thunderstorms here in the valley, especially I think on that Tuesday. And we're talking about some Sierra snowfall as well. And that's going to start late on your Tuesday and continue through your Wednesday. So an active pattern is picking back up here once again. But this is all good news. It's good to get rainfall. At least that's the good news, right? And the snowfall here. The only bad news is the impacts that we're going to be seeing, say, with cancellations of sports events and obviously travel impacts here as well. But I want to take a look at our reservoir levels because this is the good news, right? We're adding more rainfall on top of what's already pretty good numbers that we're seeing throughout some of our major reservoirs here. 92% capacity out at Trinity, 121% of average. You'll notice on most of these, almost everything is going to be above average here in terms of the water we're seeing in our reservoirs. Shasta right around 90% there, Oroville 95%, 124% of capacity. And look at Folsom, 134% of the average we typically see here for our reservoirs. So this is good news. We're adding more. We're kind of topping them off a little bit here until we get into that dry season. Taking a look further to the south, many of those reservoirs looking pretty good there as well. San Luis right around 87% capacity, but that's still above average. Notice these green numbers. Everything is above average here. This is good news. I know we had the dry month of March, right? But April's off to a very hot start in terms of rainfall being above average. It's very good news that we're looking at here with the rainfall we've already seen so far here this month. Let's take a look at where we are compared to normal. Because we're talking about, right, the adding on of more rainfall after what's already been a nice start. We're almost half an inch above normal through this date here for the month. Normally we're seeing right around 0.87 inches of so far, or 0.87 inches of rainfall so far here this month. And we're already at 1.38. And this is going to continue to add on a little bit to what's been a little bit drier than average water year. But I think we're going to be adding maybe up to another inch or more here as we get through the next couple of days. We're going to kind of start to slim that gap just a little bit. Throughout the state, you'll notice further to the south, we're doing very well there in terms of totals. Santa Barbara at 23 inches of rainfall so far. Eureka, yeah, you're at 31.71 inches of rainfall through this water year. But notice where we're seeing that departure from normal. Way out near Needles, kind of right along the Arizona border there, we're seeing a little bit of a departure, same with Palm Springs, but also here further to the north. This is pretty much exactly where we're seeing the drought conditions right now. This was where we started in October, right? But look at this shift now. It's all further to the north where we're seeing that departure from normal. Less rainfall than normal is where we're seeing those drought conditions right now. This came out here on your Thursday, and we won't see another update until Thursday, but this is some good news because we did see a little bit of change here statewide, a little bit of relief. Not by a lot, but a couple percentage points are trending closer towards the dry than the moderate range that we were just 1 week ago. So that's good news. Our drought severity index, it's at a 61. When it comes to this number, you don't want it to be high. You want the lowest possible number here, your drought severity index. And again, we're getting more rainfall. This is all the good news, right? With this rain coming our way, is we're going to continue to see these conditions, I think, decrease here as we get into the next couple weeks of that drought monitor. Taking a closer look further to the north, most of the viewing area, especially kind of right along Sacramento and due north, is in those drought conditions. Further to the south, Stockton, Modesto, the San Joaquin Valley, we're actually doing pretty well down there, but the rest of us, yeah, we're under those dry conditions. Even further up to our north and to our east, we're seeing those moderate conditions here throughout the area. And there's something I want you to keep in mind. Here's kind of the bad news, I guess, with these drought conditions. We're at that time of year now where the sun angle is going to continue to get higher and higher. Temperatures will climb, and also radiation coming in from the sun itself is going to become stronger. Okay, we're here in the month of April, right? We're almost nearing that May mark. That means that sun angle is going to get higher, which means, well, drought conditions can quickly deteriorate because we're going to have more energy coming down. That's going to be drying that fuel that we see at the surface. So we're going to continue to see that sun angle get a little bit higher increasing those drought conditions, and of course, even evaporation over the reservoirs here as well. That does lead to some mild evaporation, and as that angle gets higher, we're going to start to notice those numbers will decrease. Of course, water use as well, and we're not going to be seeing rainfall, but this is another added feature that we're going to continue to see make an impact in terms of those drought conditions. So that's some of the bad news, but the good news is rain's coming. It's kind of a good and bad, right? And when it comes to bad, there's some impacts with this system. We're talking about some rain, snow, and thunderstorms moving through the area. Again, we talked about, right, sporting events getting canceled, practices here. I know Little League season is in full swing. No pun intended there, but didn't even realize I said that. But yeah, Little League season is in full swing. We got softball going on. I know many soccer practices, club sports are still going on outside as well. So you're going to see impacts there with the thunderstorm activity, especially I think on your Tuesday. And of course, travel conditions as we get into the Sierra. I think snow is going to reach to as low as right around 5,500 feet there. And then higher than that, of course, is where we're going to see the highest accumulations. But this is going to be Tuesday through Wednesday for your weather impacts alert. Just be weather aware. Make sure you have a phone ready and a radar ready or a way to receive notifications, because we are going to be seeing some thunderstorm activity. And the kind of reminder, like we like to say a lot here, is right, when thunder roars, head indoors. And also drive cautiously. I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to be needing those chains here, especially as we get into Wednesday and those higher elevations. Here's that timeline that we're looking at. Tuesday, valley thunderstorms and some rainfall. And then, of course, some thunderstorms after sunset as well, maybe as we get into those foothills. And then we're going to start to see that transition to snowfall as we get into Tuesday night. Scattered showers and storms will continue here in the valley, but I think the big thing is going to be some Sierra snowfall late on your Tuesday night. That's when we're going to start to see those accumulations really pick up here. Wednesday, that snowfall continues. I don't think thunderstorm chances are as strong as on Wednesday. There's an isolated chance there, but we're not going to have as much storm energy here as we get towards your Wednesday. And then Wednesday night, we'll start to see that activity kind of dissipate here throughout the area. The reason this forecast has changed so much and the timing has been delayed a little bit. Remember, we were talking about Monday just about 5-6 days ago, is because this low is getting cut off from the jet stream. The jet stream's aligned further to the north here, and because that jet stream's aligned further to the north, this low, it's not going to really have any driving force with it. It's not going to force it to continue to shift its way further off to the east. So this low is cut off from the jet stream. It's allowed to kind of do its own thing and meander for a couple of days, just like what we saw last weekend, where we saw that active pattern for a few days. We're looking at a similar situation here as that low moves right on top of Northern California. And you can see the dip of cold air. Once you kind of start to see those greens move in, that means colder air moving here towards the region. That's what's allowing that snowfall at the higher elevations. We won't see this clear out till we get towards right around Wednesday, which means some good rain, soaking rain is on the way. When it comes to your rainfall totals, right around maybe 3/4 to a quarter, 1 1/4 inches of rainfall here in the valley. And something interesting with this is I think this might start to trend on. Just looking at some ensembles, which is multiple versions of a European or American model run, those are starting to trend a little bit higher there. In the Sierra, right around 1.5 to maybe 3 inches of precipitable water, or just liquid water here, or snow to water equivalent. That's what we're going to be looking at. Look further to the north, where we're also seeing more of those drought conditions. They're getting a good soaking rain too. So this is, again, benefits of this rain and the snowfall moving here throughout the area. When it comes to the weekend, we're not going to be talking about a whole lot. A beautiful weekend on the way. Before this, Saturday is going to be looking beautiful. Some sunshine as we get through the day. And then as we get towards your Sunday, we're going to kind of rinse and repeat, just maybe add a little bit more clouds in there, especially as we start the day here on your Sunday. And then as we get towards Sunday afternoon, sunshine. But notice off over the Pacific. That's when we're going to start to see that system creeping its way here towards the area. It's going to be primarily coastal here as we get towards your Monday. That's been a pretty consistent trend here with the models. But then as we get later into the afternoon, here we are right around 2 p.m. That's when I think it starts to clear that coastal range and make its way here, becoming a little bit more widespread as we get throughout the day on your Tuesday. And then as we continue Tuesday into your Wednesday, you're just going to be seeing plenty of rainfall throughout the area. I think a pretty active day is going to be ahead of us on Tuesday. I think that's where we're going to be seeing the best coverage here. Then we're going to start to see that transition to the snowfall and the higher elevations. And I said that's late Tuesday into your Wednesday. That's exactly what the models are showing here. As we get into your Wednesday, that's when the activity becomes a little bit more wide scattered, I guess you could say, dispersed almost is a good way to put it here as we get towards your Wednesday. And then as we get towards Wednesday afternoon, maybe one last little push with an isolated rumble, and then the snowfall kind of starts to weaken or kind of fall apart as we get late into your Wednesday. But storms is going to be the big impact here in the valley. And what you're looking at is storm energy. And in order for storms to kind of get firing, they need energy from temperatures and within the atmosphere to create that charge, that convection that allows lightning and thunder to develop. Here we are on your Tuesday. As we get into the afternoon, I think that's when we start to see that potential, the best potential here for thunderstorms to develop. You start to see a little bit more of that yellow here, right, as we get into your Tuesday. That continues through the afternoon. The overnight hours, there's a chance, but it starts to weaken just a little bit. We're going to rinse and repeat Wednesday, but notice the coloring here. It's a lot lighter, right? That's why I think the thunderstorm chances on your Wednesday are going to be much more isolated. Then as we get later into the day, don't see too much in terms of thunderstorm activity. Here's the models that are kind of showing some good rainfall here. This is both the American and the European. What you're looking at first is the European. This is right around 1 to maybe 1.5 inches or maybe a little bit more in portions of the valley. Again, this is just a trend. This is raw data that you're looking at, but it gives a perspective of trends. We like to look at trends when these systems are a little bit further out. It's trending a little bit higher. The American yesterday was a little bit behind in terms of these rainfall totals. Now it's starting to show maybe over an inch or more in the valley, and into the Sierra, we're talking about maybe Placerville getting 2 inches. Same with our friends out in Jackson. So that's just something to watch, a trend. But as of right now, we could be getting 1 to maybe 1.5 inches if this trend does hold. So that's some good news there. Again, we're good with the rain, the thunderstorm activity, not so much. Again, the snowfall, good for helping drought conditions, but it brings those travel impacts. Here's kind of totals we're looking at as we get into those higher elevations. Donna right around maybe 8 inches here on the European. Further to the south, kind of near Kirkwood, we could be looking at maybe 13. Here's the American version, showing a little bit of some variety compared to the European, right? But it shows the trend that we're looking at of maybe seeing that 5 to 10 inch mark and then maybe a little bit higher at those peaks. So that's some good news. Again, travel impacts, bad, but good news, more snowfall coming down, and we're going to continue to see those drought conditions get better. In the extended forecast, next 8 to 14 days, we're trending likely a little bit warmer. I agree with what I'm seeing there. In the next 8 to 14 days, there's an isolated chance of maybe some showers moving through, but that's so far away again. Data is going to shift, but there's a chance that we're likely wetter here over the next 8 to 14 days. Here in the mountains, again, we're going to start to see the rainfall on Tuesday, transition to snow on your Wednesday. Notice that temperature drop from 60 on Sunday to 43 on Wednesday. The hills, that's when I think we could see that thunderstorm activity on Tuesday. Just good old-fashioned showers on your Wednesday. And coastal, they see that system move in on Monday. Again, I was showing you that on the Futurecast, right? You start to see that low creeping in on Monday. Those chances continue here through Wednesday. Your weekend's going to be beautiful, and even the start of next week, 72 partly cloudy skies on Monday, absolutely fantastic. The 7-day forecast, though, is when we start to see that active pattern pick up. Thunderstorm chances here in the valley in Sacramento on your Tuesday. That's when that weather impact alert starts. It continues through Wednesday for more shower and rainfall activity, but the extended forecast, really not too bad. The next 10 days looking absolutely fantastic with highs into the 70s and mostly sunny skies.